Let's look at our key seat drawing assignment, assignment 3. Here is the assignment itself, and it points out that you already have a drawing to download. It's called Key Seats, and it already has the start of some stuff drawn in it. Then it says also download the PDF handout. Here, there it is. We've mentioned that before. And now, for each of those shafts and hubs, use these tables to look up the sizes that you need. Use the tables to look up the tolerances that you need. And then dimension the keyway widths and depths with tolerances. And this says you may use either plus-minus tolerances or limit tolerances, whichever one you like. So let's look at that drawing. When you open this ME02d key seats, it looks like this. Here are an 1.5-inch diameter shaft and a hub with an 1.5-inch diameter hole, then an 1 7/8 diameter shaft and a hub with an 1 7/8 diameter hole. And I have put some stuff up here above this drawing on a no print layer. See this stuff? When you open the drawing, you'll be able to see this. I put this stuff on the viewport layer, and this is a no print layer is a handy thing to have when you are in the workplace. In our layers for our title block here, here's our viewport layer, and see how that printer icon has a red circle through it? That means it won't print. So what that means is that I can write notes to my colleagues like you. I can say, here, this should look like this, and you should do this other thing, or here's what I found. And when my colleague hits the print button, this stuff will not show up because it's on a no print layer. Many offices actually make a separate no print layer called notes or no print or something. I just put it on the viewport. Anyway, why I put this stuff up here was I wanted to give you an idea of what your finished drawing should look like. Now, I made the wrong sizes because I didn't want to give away the answer. I want you to have practice looking these up. But I did want to show you what the dimensioning and tolerancing should look like. There's for the 1.5 inch, and here's for the 1 7/8. So now let's think about how do you put these tolerances on here? Let's say that let me take off this. Let's zoom in here. When we did our practice keyway and tolerances in our last video, we found that the width tolerance on our imaginary keyway was +2 minus nothing. So how would I add that to my keyway dimension here? When we want to put tolerances on, we need a new dimension style. And where are dimension styles? They are under this Annotate tab. Dimensions are a kind of annotation. So here are this and this and this. Here is the panel for dimensions, and here's the diagonal drop-down arrow that takes us to the dimension style. So I am going to start with the standard style, and notice in the preview window it doesn't have any tolerances on it. And I won't modify that. No, no, no. I leave that one alone. I'm going to make a new dimension style. And Now you can name this whatever you like. You could call it keyway width tolerance, or you could call it, I like to put numbers in here. Sometimes I might go 002, 000. I'll just call it keyway width though. Okay, so I'm making a new dimension style. And this stuff comes up. Do I need to change symbols and arrows? No, I don't. They're fine. Text is fine. The fit question is, what is my viewport scale? I bet it's 1 to 2. So I bet a fit scale of 2 is going to be just fine. Don't need to change that. What I do need to change, though, is tolerances. Here's this tab over on the far right. This is where I'm going to set my plus, minus, or limits tolerances. So let's work our way down. First of all, what method do I want? If I want, if it's plus 2, minus 2, I could do symmetrical, but it's not. If I want to do plus or minus, that's not one of the choices. They call it deviation. Oh, great. Okay, so there's deviation. See how the preview changed? So I will change the upper value. I'm going for plus 2 minus nothing. So I will change the upper value to 2. That's what it's going to add on. And I'll leave the lower value at 0. And I'll leave the scaling for height set at 1. Some companies in the olden days like to make their tolerance text a smaller size, but that is not standard, and we are not going to do that, so we'll leave this alone. Okay, anyhow, then you can pick how you want it aligned. I want it in the middle. Do you want to align the decimal points or the plus minus signs? And then, this is an important one at the bottom. Don't forget this. You want to suppress the leading 0 because we're doing inch dimensions. Watch the preview window up here when I check leading. See how that leading 0 got suppressed? Okay, good deal. Notice how I did not need to change the precision of the tolerances. I've already set the precision for this dimension at 3 decimal places, so I don't need to be concerned down here. So I'll tell it OK. I've now set my plus minus tolerance. And I want to make sure that this tolerance, this dimension style I just created is the current style. Looks like yes it is, so that's good. And I'll close this. And now I will put a dimension, a width dimension, on my keyway. I'll go from here. Very important to use the O snaps, of course, to here. Looky there. So there's my keyway width with the plus minus tolerances added. What if I prefer to do limits dimensions instead? Oh, and let me just say, I drew this keyway width at a width of 360, which is stupid because that's not a real keyway width. I was faking it. So this just adds and subtracts the tolerances onto whatever it was I actually drew. Let's go back to our dimension style. And I'm now going to modify my style because the only thing I want to change in the Tolerances tab is instead of plus minus deviation, I'd rather have limits dimensioning. So I'll select limits. OK. That one is still the current style. Yay. And now when I put a dimension on my keyway width, now I'm in the limits form. Okay, now let me take the shaft keyway dimension off, because now we want to look at how do we do the shaft keyway. This is not going to be the same +2 minus nothing, is it? It's going to be an entirely different tolerance range. In our practice shaft that we looked at in our last video, we found a depth tolerance for the shaft keyway of +0 minus 15. So let's pretend like that's the tolerance for this one. And let's go back to still the Annotate tab, the Dimension style. I need a new dimension style. Don't just modify this one, because it will change every blasted dimension on your drawing. You need a new one. And so I'm going to do shaft keyway depth tolerance. You know what? I should put the size 1 and a half shaft. We've got a different size shaft too. Okay, so that's my new dimension style. Now I'm in the Tolerances tab, and this depth tolerance was +0, so my upper value needs to be 0, and my lower value for this fake example needs to be 0.15, 15 thousandths. Oh, and my zero still needs to be, my leading zero still needs to be suppressed. Okay. Now let's make sure my shaft keyway is the current style. Yes, it is. So now I can go put a depth dimension on this shaft, and looky there, it has a different size range than my other dimension did. I think that's all I need to say about that. The point I'm trying to make is that you are going to need a separate dimension style for the keyway width for the small one, the keyway width for the big one, and each of these 4 keyway depths. So you're going to need 4 new dimension styles in addition to the standard style which you're using for the diameters. If you want to, once you've got all that set up, you're welcome to delete this stuff on the no print layer. This was just me talking to you and giving you some clues. You're welcome to delete that. Then we'll go to our viewport, and here in our viewport, this stuff is already centered in your viewport, so you should be good to go. Let's open the viewport and make sure the scale is okay though. So I'll double click inside the viewport to open the viewport, and I'll go over here to the drop down viewport scale, and yes, it is still set at 1:2, so that's good. So now I will double click outside the viewport again to close that viewport, and then I will come down here to my title block, and I will edit the text so that it says what I want it to. Main thing is, I think I've already fixed up the assignment number in the description. You just need to change the name and the date. And then you'll be done.